Everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. Of course, I'm joined by my tag team partner, as always, Mr. Paul, Microsoft fan Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah. Pretty good.
People have called you a lot of things. This is definitely not the worst thing that you could be called by Business Insider.
No, but, every once in a while, if somebody accuses me of being a Microsoft, like a cheerleader or a fanboy, that kind of thing, all that does is prove to me that they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't pay attention to anything I write, and they just don't know any better.
Do you think for people who don't know, there was an article that was put out by Business Insider late last night around 9:40, and
very specific.
Very specific because I'm looking at it. It is hot. You remember we were talking about the flame thing on their website? It is on fire. The article is on fire.
Yeah, I got to use a rating system like that. I like that.
I think you should do different types of beer.
I want everything I write to be on fire.
You know what you could do, Paul? If it's like a crappy article, no one really cares. It's like a bottle of Coors Light.
Yeah.
And
it's Bud Light Ice.
Bud Light Ice. Yeah. Natty Light, as the college kids like to drink. But I was looking at this, and I didn't even know that you were involved in this. I said Microsoft fan. So I'm thinking they took a survey. Like they went to the street and they just asked a bunch of people, like, hey, are you a Microsoft fan? It's
interesting that you assumed some form of work occurred, right? Like you actually assumed they might have even done some research.
I had no idea this was about you because, first of all, you don't come up till the third paragraph, which is great. But blogger Paul Thurrott of the influential Windows blog.
Better than influenza, yeah.
Well, I don't know. It could be worse. Says that there's really... So, whatever it is, this is going based on an article that you wrote yesterday, you released. And great article. You talk about what the hell's happening with Windows. I'm just curious because I'm always amazed at the certain things that get picked up, right? Like, we talk about a lot of things on the show, and sometimes they get picked up by blogs and forums, and people start spreading what we're saying. And 99% of the time, it's a thing that I consider a non-event. It's just us BSing and just going back and forth. What made that article get, picked up everywhere?
I have to be honest for this one. I often write things, or like you said, we'll have a discussion, and I think nothing of it, and it kind of gets out there. And I never understand. Well, I mean, it's weird to me how often that happens. This particular article, I knew it was going to be a problem, and I actually held on to it for over a day because I just didn't want to deal with what I knew was going to be just a crazy amount of feedback and some awful feedback and people misunderstanding what I was trying to say. I went back and rewrote parts of it to, try to be very clear what I was trying to communicate. And all I really learned is that I can't communicate clearly because everyone has misunderstood what I was trying to say, and well, not everybody, obviously, but a lot of people have, and it's too bad, And unfortunately, for the people, for a lot of the people who are kind of publicizing this around the internet, whether it's Business Insider or anybody else, those guys aren't part of the daily conversation that occurs on my website. They don't understand what I'm all about. Obviously, they, and so they see this thing and they're like, wow, this is, things are really going south if this guy who loves Microsoft so much is writing this, and it's like that. Geez,
and this, the crazy thing is you've always been honest about the situation.
Yeah.
You're honest. If Microsoft does something great, sure, you'll say it was great. If they do something awful, you're the first one to say, hey, that's crappy.
Yep. And it's not, look, I'm not particularly insightful or anything. I'm not, and I've never tried to present myself as such. I knew that some people were going to say, oh, you've completely done a 180 on Windows 8. You used to talk about how great it was. And it's like, that's not what I was writing, and I nor does this contradict what I wrote previously. I don't know. I think the simplest thing I can say is I use Windows 8 every single day. I have used Windows 8 longer than virtually anyone on this planet. I use it on all of my computers. There's not some secret computer I actually turn to get work done that runs something else.
You're running
Windows
Linux,
7 or Chrome OS, or
Linux.
yeah, Linux, God forbid.
But would you be running
Mac,
Windows 8 if you didn't do this for a living, right? I mean, you've always been interested in computers and technology, but if you weren't doing this for a living and you were doing whatever, would you be using Windows 8?
Well, I can't. Yes. I mean, so the simple answer is yes, but the longer answer is, if I wasn't doing this for a living, what might I have been doing before that leads to today? I don't know. I mean, what I can tell you is that based on real world using it, I've moved, up with the various versions of Windows. I have a responsibility to write about this stuff, but I also very honestly want to communicate that I believe that Windows 8, even in its current condition, is better than Windows 7 on the computers I use it on, which are desktop computers and non-touch laptops and things like that. So there's a lot of silliness out there, a lot of opinions, and there are a lot of people who claim to be technically sophisticated but somehow can't make this transition and whatever. But there's a big difference between my personal opinion of the system and my ability to use it and the real world reaction to it. Right around the time Windows 8 was released a year and a half ago, is that right? Yeah, about a year and a half ago. I received a lot of internal information from people at Microsoft that this was going badly right away.
Amongst the people that work at Microsoft, it's going badly? Okay.
Yep. And then you hear from people who will say things like, well, it's a little early to say that this thing's going poorly. And it's like, well, tell Microsoft that. They know what's happening. I mean, so when I like this past, in this article that everyone's referencing, I wrote that there's no two ways about it. Windows 8 is a disaster in every way, shape, and form. What I mean by that is that the reception to this thing has been terrible. Users don't want it. Businesses don't want it. No one is buying new machines that run on this system. That's a disaster. That is a disaster. It happened at the worst possible moment, a moment in time when people are turning increasingly to simpler devices that run non-Windows operating systems. That's a disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
It has nothing to do with my ability to use it. I use it every single day. I have no problem with it.
And Paul, we joke about Chrome, the Chromebooks, and I want to talk about the Chromeboxes, but that there's something to be said about the people that are using it and that are enjoying it. And it's the same concept. People are moving over to simpler devices. And even, for me, that device is not for me, but to be fair, for somebody else, it may be for them. And what was their other option before that? It would have been buying a PC.
When Microsoft shipped Windows Vista back in 2006, 2007-ish, Apple was very aggressive and was pushing the Mac. And they did a lot of those I'm a Mac, I'm a PC type ads at that time. And when Vista came, it was like a gift from God. And they really went to town on Vista. And they had to deal with that, at that time. These days, Apple is not aggressive going after Windows because Apple has a much bigger market to worry about with mobile devices, and so they don't really care about Windows anymore. But now Microsoft has Google to deal with. Google is the one aggressively going after Microsoft. It's very interesting that both times there's been like a foil for these releases. But I guess there's a lot of things I could say about this. I've heard from a lot of people, present and past, from Microsoft. Not officially, like not on the record, every single one of them completely agreed with this assessment of Windows. I got I can't unfortunately tell you who told me this, but I got a great line. A former Microsoft executive gave me an amazing quote, which I'll try to distill down a little bit. But he basically said, Windows Vista was a disaster, but the people who made Windows Vista had good intentions. It was just bad, it was, and, the Microsoft of the day was not very quick moving. And so it took them a couple of years to kind of, get that straight. The problem with Windows 8 is that it was deliberate, and we've talked a bit about how they didn't build the backwards compatibility stuff in like every version of Windows always had before it. They deliberately jammed a mobile operating system into a desktop operating system in a bid to force people to update to this new system. That Microsoft's their own need was to get this thing in as many hands as possible. And the bad side effect of that is that they've really harmed their relationship with everybody. They've harmed their relationship with their customers, people, as well as businesses. They've harmed their relationship with partners, the PC makers who have to build these weird transforming devices that people are not so sure they want. And partners doubly so because of Surface as well. I mean, I happen to like Surface. I think the whole Surface thing is a good idea, but there's a reason everyone's making Chromebooks, and it's not because Chromebooks are like the hot new thing. I mean, a lot of these companies are just looking into alternatives because they're not very excited about what's happening with Windows.
Well, I think I asked you this before, but when you say internally, Microsoft acknowledged the fact that Vista was a disaster. In what regards? Are they saying it was a disaster as far as marketing of the product goes and how the brand was kind of tainted? Or are they saying the fundamentals of that operating system was a disaster?
It's everything.
Everything, total package.
I mean, you could pick any part of it, and I could explain the disaster. The very basics of what I just said. The decision to combine a mobile operating system with a desktop operating system, disaster. Because it's not a seamless experience, and it never will be. It's two different things. There's this jarring, weird world that you go between. It's like another world or something, or a purgatory. You have to get from one to the other. It's unnatural. It's no more natural than putting Android in Windows or putting iOS in the Mac or something. It makes no sense.
But are they saying, like, we've spoken about this and a lot of our viewers have said, why not have, like on the laptop, right? Why not have a laptop that's running desktop when it's running, and then when you detach it, it automatically goes to Windows RT. It's running, Windows RT on that thing. Do they acknowledge that kind of makes more sense than having this hybrid OS?
You can't, if you're going to talk to anyone on the record about this kind of a product, you're not going to get the honest response, because the honest response is hopefully we have some long-term vision. I actually don't think they do, but let's just pretend they do. And in this long-term vision, it will get to that point. But before we can get there, we have these steps we have to take. And it's not going to be clean. The first version of Windows RT doesn't have RT Office. We need a desktop. We need control panel. It's not optimal. Maybe we do get there. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. To me, I hate even talking about this stuff because, like I said, I knew this was going to be awful, and for all the wrong reasons. It's just, there's really nothing new to say here.
Yeah.
What triggered this, by the way, is that Microsoft has undergone a reorganization. It has tossed out all of the key people who were in place that made Windows 8. They're all either gone from Microsoft or gone from Windows. And there's essentially a new team taking this over. Now, it's like becoming president after the worst recession in U.S. history. And
it could only get better.
You have a mess. Well,
Yeah.
but you have a mess. And it's going to be messy for a while. And people are going to start blaming you after a while. And it's tough. I don't want to point fingers at anybody there now, whether it's Terry Myerson or whatever, and say, you made this disaster, because he didn't. But you've inherited a mess. You've inherited this thing where previous to you, teams at Microsoft weren't working together. Previous to you, the guys that ran Windows took a lot of user experience stuff from Windows Phone and didn't make it consistent and didn't make it compatible and just went and did their own thing. And they made all new APIs, and we don't know why. And they started over from scratch. We don't know why. And they refused to work with everybody. We don't know why. And it's this mess. And so it's going to be messy for a while. As Donald Rumsfeld said, democracy is messy, I guess, or it's messy. So you inherited this thing, and you have to kind of get from there to wherever you want to go. And I don't think they know where they want to go exactly yet, but they know they have to make some changes.
And Microsoft is in a very unique and bizarre situation right now, where it's kind of the changing of the guard, and everything is changing. The board is changing, the new CEO, new operating system. So everything is kind of changing in that company. I am curious to see where the new CEO takes this company. Obviously, a lot of things are already in place, and he can't really shake it up. And it's more up to whoever's leading that team to kind of guide the vision of whatever they have.
Right.
But everything has been shifted in this company. 8.1 is, 8.1 update 1 is coming out, which I know you're not really happy with. There are a lot of things that you're actually surprised at.
That's what triggered it. That's what I mean. In other words, update 1 being maybe the first deliverable from the Terry Myerson folks.
Was it the inconsistencies that bothered you?
Yeah, I mean, you try to work through what's happening here, right? Like when I look at Windows 8, in my review of Windows 8, which a lot of people remember for some reason, I started it with a line something like, Windows 8 is a mess, a glorious mess, And the point of that was, it's a mess, right? Because it jams these two operating systems together into one thing. But from the perspective of a technology enthusiast, Windows 8 in many ways is very exciting. I mean, here's Microsoft trying to do something new and different, something that no company's ever done before. It's very interesting. I mean, jamming two paradigms together like this is it's crazy. It's nuts. And let's just have fun with it. I mean, here we go. I mean, they're doing this thing. It's nuts. You realize that people don't react well to this kind of thing, though. And I think the ultimate response to Windows 8 was negative. And so Windows 8.1 happens. And how do you approach Windows 8.1? I mean, I look at Windows 8.1 and I say, well, they're doing a better job for the different customer types. If you use a tablet, less desktop, nice. If you use a traditional computer like I do, less Metro, nice. And then update 1 comes. How do you approach update 1? Now they're getting gooier and messier, right? They're really changing things. They had these interfaces that work consistently in Metro between touch, keyboard and mouse, and pen. The different interface types. And in update 1, they're doing something else. They're inconsistently putting some desktop UI elements in Metro, but only when you're using a mouse and only in certain parts of Metro.
What is it just to keep people hold people over until Windows 9 or whatever the next version is?
Yeah,
was it this kind of like this Frankenstein thing? Like, let's add this feature, let's add that feature. Okay, let's push it out.
Yeah, so that particular feature, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the next step is. I mean, I've argued that if they're going to do this, they should do it consistently, and they should override all Metro apps. I've been told by actually many people who probably do know the answer that that is either not possible or is not ideal, because it would subvert what developers were trying to accomplish in many cases with their own apps. So my response to that would be, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. But I'll give you here's an example of something that is midstream. And so in Windows 8.1, you can pin desktop applications to the start screen, but you cannot pin Metro applications to the taskbar. We know in Windows 9, they're going to give you the ability to, or at least they're now planning to give you the ability to run Metro apps in Windows floating on the desktop. Kind of a mix and match kind of a thing. So in Windows, it's so weird. In Windows 8.1 Update 1, they give you the ability to pin a Metro app to the taskbar, which is a step in that direction that we know. It's like halfway point. But why would you give people half of a feature?
So you pin it, you start it, and it takes you back into the Metro interface.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Now, there are, in fact, reasons why, as it turns out, because there's really two features. The other feature is you could have Metro apps appear in the taskbar while they're running, meaning you haven't pinned them, but if the Mail app is running in the background, there'll be a Mail app icon sitting there, because the way that applications work on the desktop is even if you don't pin an app, if you run, say, Microsoft Word, there's a Microsoft Word button sitting there in the taskbar while it's running. That's one of the ways you can access it. Some of the other ways include like keyboard shortcuts and so forth. So they sort of make Metro, it's an option. You can turn it off actually, but they make it possible to access Metro apps from the desktop in ways that weren't, in ways that are fairly consistent with how, say, desktop applications work. But because they don't run on the desktop, they take over the screen when you run them. and it's weird. It's just it's such a mess. It's the type of thing where I think if this feature had been planned for Windows 8 and they had done a traditional beta test, which Microsoft never did under Steven Sinofsky, people would have complained about it a lot. And I think it wouldn't have happened because of those complaints. It would have been changed in some way. So I don't know. I find these kinds of inconsistencies and things to be kind of a legacy classic problem with Windows. It's the famous complaint from the past, too many ways to do the same thing, inconsistent. It's not the level. For example, Microsoft makes Surface. You can say whatever you want about Surface, but those products are really well made. There's an attention to detail that occurs with those products in hardware that I really like. That is really lacking in Windows. And I've argued in the past, Microsoft needs to stop moving forward and just, kind of finish the job, fill in the little missing bits. And you might say, well, maybe, they're doing that. And it's like, no, they're just making more inconsistent. They're piling stuff on. Like, I think at some point, someone needs to be strong enough there to say, no, there doesn't have to be another way to do this. Stop adding stuff.
I can't wait till April. Stupid. I cannot wait till April. Build.
It's possible that the reaction to some of this stuff may change what's happening. That would be wonderful, right? As a few people have pointed out to me, by the way, Microsoft has never officially admitted that this Update 1 thing even exists. You never know. I mean, it does exist.
When is it supposed to be coming out officially?
April.
And then when are they?
Or March or April. But it could actually already be RTM. That's the thing.
Yeah. I don't know. Boy, I mean, they're in a weird spot. Now, the other thing is Windows Phone 8.1 is going to be coming out, and there's been a lot of news with that.
Right.
I had this question for you a while ago, and I forgot to ask you. With Windows 8 and 8 and Windows Phone 8 being kind of on the same release cycle,
yeah,
what's going to happen when 9 comes out? Are they looking to release Windows Phone 9?
Yeah,
at the same time, or is it going to be?
There's been a lot of people are really concerned about version numbers and stuff, but there's a threshold wave of products that will ship simultaneously or nearly so. That are designed in many ways to bring functional parity across 3 platforms: Windows, Phone, and Xbox One. I assume they'll call it Windows Phone 9. Some people will tell you that's not true. I don't think it matters or no, but yes, there will be more of an attempt to bring these things together. You see it a little bit in these releases. Windows Phone 8.1, you can see some stuff in there that's clearly from Windows, from the Windows side of the house, which is nice. I think Threshold / Windows 9 will. I mean,
we're going to assume that they're going to kill off the numbers, right? They're just going to.
I hope so.
Because I think on the phone it's a little weird.
This posted about this, that there's an Exchange 2013 product out now. At some point it just becomes Exchange, right? And I think maybe they could do that with Windows too. I mean, I think under the covers, people are always fascinated by these things. Oh, this thing's really 6.2. Oh, no, it's 6.3, and now it's 6.3.1. And they change something. It's really interesting. But I think at some point, they need to kind of bag the version numbers as a selling point.
So when something like this happens, where an article that you wrote gets picked up everywhere, and it kind of goes insane, what do you do? Like, do you go into damage control mode to kind of steer people into the right direction as far as what you said and what you didn't say? Like, what is it like for you when something like this happens?
What is it like for me?
Yeah, I imagine you strap on, you put on your seatbelt, and you go into DEFCON 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've been to Cancun. Did you? Was the weather good enough that you could get in the ocean and go in the waves and all that stuff?
I came close to it, and then I ran away like a girl.
So last year when we went, the waves were astronomically high. I thought I'd been in really big waves before, and I had never seen waves this high. And it's a miracle. None of us got hurt. But we went out. My whole family went out in this stuff, and my son and I would kind of jokingly just stand there as the wave
smashed into
destroyed
you.
us. You know, as if just by standing still, you could somehow, prevent anything from happening. That's what this is like. It's it's just there's nothing you can do about it.
I just imagine. I just got the picture of you just opening up a beer and just walking into the ocean.
Yeah,
just
no, it was more like
until
I would just like kind of open up, like just I'm gonna be, it was we all enjoyed it a lot, but I had this. No, in the back of my head, because I'm a father, I'm like, oh boy, something awful's gonna happen. Like you gotta be. This is just, and we got pulled out of the water by the lifeguards a couple of times. They're like, you got to get out of there. Like it's just too nasty out there.
It's actually a good write up, Paul, and I it's everywhere. I mean, every site
doesn't
that I
excite
went
me
to.
in the slightest. I'm.
But
I'm
you don't get excited at all
it.
at that. I mean, do you ever get excited at that? I feel like with you, it's almost like an annoyance that now you have to deal with, the misquotes.
I'm told, yeah. So I'm always amused. Like people read this thing. Somebody used the word hysterical, because that's me, right? I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, screaming at the top of my lungs. People will often use the term rant. Oh, Thurrott, another rant, whatever that means. Like, because these are words that diminish the point of what I'm trying to make, and I don't think of myself as excitable exactly. I certainly can get excited like anyone else, I guess. But I like I said, this one, I knew this was going to be bad, and I waited a day. I work 7 days a week, but one of the things I've been trying to do over the past several weeks, especially, is not be so connected to the world on the weekends. So even though I'm working, especially on the books lately, over the weekend, I'll turn Twitter off. I don't want to have that, in the back of my head. And so on Saturday, I had kind of written this, and I thought, I got to wait on this one. And so I waited until Sunday. I rewrote it. I reread it. Made sure it was, what I meant to say. No one could possibly misconstrue. And they did anyway, of course. I knew they would. But then I had to, moderate the comments on my site, and I knew I would have to do that. I knew that if I waited until Monday morning, it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
I get these web reports, that tell me how many people read things and what they read and all that kind of stuff. And, this has been like a tsunami. But it's all it is more work. Like I desperately don't want to have to explain myself. I want to be able to write something like this and just have it be out there and have it be understandable and have no one misunderstand it and no one misconstrue what I was trying to say.
That's never going to happen.
And it never happens, yeah.
I mean,
and feel like I wrote something reasonable, not something hysterical. That it's like, I spend 2 years writing about Windows 8. And then someone will say, wow, you made this kind of bald-faced comment about Windows 8 here. Do you have anything to back that up? Yeah. I have the 2 books I've written about Windows 8 and 88,000 words I've written about it over the past 2 months or whatever. Yeah. I mean, like, seriously? I mean, this thing does not stand by itself. If you're not, I don't expect you to read everything I've written. I get that. But come on, do a little work. I mean,
I think, if people are passionate. Right. People are really passionate, and on both sides, both sides of the argument, people are really passionate, and sure. At times, like, I consider myself to be a very passionate person. The things that I believe in, the fundamental values that I have, things with work, I'm very passionate about. But I'm not hysterical in the sense where if you tell me I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you, Paul, you know what? You're full of it. You're insane. What are you talking about? I'm right. You're wrong. I'm going to listen to you and say, you know what? I could be wrong. An end of argument. Done. It's funny you say that. I probably should admit this publicly. It's this will be abused, but I question everything. So if someone I know in person says something to me, questions something I just said maybe, or someone online will question something I wrote, like I actually have that moment of doubt where I'm like, huh, and I actually think a lot of people don't do that. Like I said, I've never tried to present myself as the be all know all, ivory tower, white robe, lab technician guy. I don't have all the answers. I mean, in many ways, I have nothing but questions. But yeah, I mean, but I just feel like this one in particular, it's like, look,
I don't really feel it's ambiguous.
Yeah, Paul,
I don't feel it's debatable.
And I'll tell you, and someone said in the chat room, said, this is why you're a great journalist. We joke on the show, we drink, but I really respect your opinion on stuff. Because you don't do these sensational headlines and these.
That was another one, by the way, though. So someone said, yes, clickbait headline, right?
And I was about to say, I've never seen you do any kind of link baiting. I've never seen you do any of that stuff.
I'm sorry. That is insane. All I can say is, first of all, there would have been much more dramatic things. I could have written Windows is fucked.
The death of
I could have
Windows.
written what I really. By the way, I toned it down. To be clear, the document that I wrote, the title of it is something like "What the hell is wrong with Windows?" Right? Yeah. I actually wrote "What the heck is wrong with Windows?" I even cleaned it up. Not a sensational headline. I don't understand these arguments. Like it's just. It's crazy to me. So, yes. So I am a Windows fanboy / cheerleader. Microsoft is paying me. And so it is insane that I, who previously was touting Windows 8 as the be-all, end-all, best operating system ever created, because, of course, it came out of Redmond, is now a disaster, a complete 180 from my previous opinion. And, and in a hysterical rant, have just, I don't know, bitten the hand that feeds me or something. I don't know what I just did. I seriously?
GFQ viewer 6765 says, show title, Windows is censored.
Yeah, there you go.
I want to move on to something else, but
who wouldn't? Let me before we do that. Let me just say this, and it's understandable how you want to move on.
I could talk about this all day. We just have notes.
Well, I just want to reiterate and maybe even expand a bit on this notion that I like Windows and I use it and I have no problems with it. I mean, but it occurred to me that, and I wrote a little bit about this, I think, in that article. I expanded on it later for a different editorial. But Windows has this future. We always talk about how doomed it is and how it's screwed and everything. But roughly 300 million PCs will be sold this year. Roughly 95% of them will be running Windows. And those devices are going to be used for productivity. And this is the thing that Microsoft's really good at. It's this kind of business aspect to it. And when I think about the people who use Windows, including myself, they're not just business users in the traditional sense. They're just regular people who need to get work done, and that is not a bad focus for this product. It's fine. I think Microsoft's problem is that they've made Windows schizophrenic because they try to do too much at once. They're trying to please all these different scenarios and all these different user types. Somebody, I knew I was going to hear from this guy. I don't mean this guy like a particular guy, but this kind of guy. Paul, you forgot about all the people who play games on Windows. No, actually, I didn't. I know that happens. And I know that people read email on Windows and that they do Facebook and sometimes they play games on the web. Those things just kind of happen. You don't have to, there's nothing special you have to do in Windows to make that happen. It just happens. So you get that stuff for free. I think the focus that Microsoft should put on Windows going forward is to make people more productive and have Windows be the best platform for Office and Photoshop and things like those apps. The apps that people use to get work done. Not Candy Crush, not Flappy Birds or whatever that thing was called. Or
can we talk about the hysterics behind that stupid game?
Sure. Let's talk about something.
Before we get into Flappy Birds,
Mario, Sonic, Tiny Birds rip off.
Before we get into that, a couple quick notes I want to put out there. I see there's over 200 people in our IRC chat room right now. We are going to. I'm sorry for the people listening to the podcast, but
we're all sorry. Yes,
we're all sorry. But I encourage you guys to watch live if you can. I know a lot of people are working at this time, but if you're not, take a look, come in, say hello to us. We are in the process of switching over to a new IRC chat room. Right now, we are on a different network. We're using Geek Shed's network. We have created our own IRC network. We have our own server. Everything is under our control, and we are making the switch right after this show live on the air. If you're in our chat room right now and you want to sign up, if you have an IRC client and you want to sign up to the new IRC, we're doing a thing for the first people that, people that adapt to the new IRC. We are going to Adopt to the new IRC, Paul? Adopt to the new IRC. Adopt.
Yes.
I said adapt. Not adapting to anything. Adopt to the new IRC. We're going to give you voice in there. So if you go to irc.gfqnetwork.com in an IRC client, so you can't put it in the web. You got to use a client. Register your nickname. Let Suncast know in there, and he'll set you guys up. He'll help you, if you need any help. We're making the move right after the show, so it's going to be a little bit of a disaster. We didn't want to do it while the show was happening, just in case it was a total meltdown. I can't concentrate on one thing, so it's going to be very difficult for me to continue talking if we're having a total crisis happen while we're doing the show. Oh my God, the chat room's down! I'm going to get that. So we're going to give you voice in the chat. Auto
not
voice,
actual voice.
Not actual voice, but it's a little credit thanking you for coming in. Also, Paul and I will be starting a Patreon campaign in the coming weeks. If you like the show, you could support the show via Patreon. We're going to also limit ads because I actually like the flow of the show when we're not stopping every 20 minutes to do an ad here on the show. If we can limit the ads, we're going to limit the ads. We're going to have certain goals set up, and we're going to have you guys participate in that and give us, help us out. And then in return, we're going to give back special shows. We're going to be doing some new stuff. Paul and I think tomorrow we're having a meeting, right? Or Thursday?
Thursday, yep.
Thursday morning, we're having a big meeting, huge meeting.
Yes.
Here,
do I have to come to New York for this?
You do, suit and tie. And then we're not even going anywhere. We're going to sit in Penn Station and drink beer out of a paper bag. That's what we're going to do. So someone said in our chat room, will that get rid of the ads that played throughout the live video? Yes, if we meet a certain goal. So I'm going to be totally open with you guys on how much certain things cost to do and what upgrades we need. And we're going to try to meet those goals to kind of keep everything going the way you guys want. So we have that happening. We have a lot going on. A lot of new stuff. We're getting a new phone system in here, so we're going to be taking phone calls from you guys. People have suggested that Paul and I just get drunk and talk about war. People have suggested that Paul and I get drunk and just talk about aliens, because we know Paul had an encounter with an alien.
Well, with a UFO.
With a UFO.
But, yeah.
With a UFO. But who
I
do you
would
think,
love to have an encounter with an alien.
I mean, who do you think was flying that plane? That UFO? Obviously.
Sure it was
Aliens.
Government, but
aliens. No, Paul,
Yeah.
aliens. Come on, just let them have this. So we have a lot going on. Also, we have a new website coming out in the coming weeks. So a lot's happening. And, I want to thank you guys for supporting the show. It's over 200 episodes, and every week the number is growing. The number of subscribers are growing. We're on iTunes, Windows Phone, everywhere possible. The Windows Phone's number, it's like insane. It's actually almost half and half between iTunes and Windows Phone, which I find astonishing.
Wow.
I think this is the only show that has that kind of ratio between Windows Phone and iTunes.
I just want to be really clear. I like the people who listen to this on Windows Phone way better than those other people.
Okay, I listen on Android.
Just kidding.
But it's actually really cool. We have a lot of stuff happening. I just wanted to take a little break and talk about that and give you guys a little update on what's going on. Everything's going to be posted on the website when we do it, so everybody will know what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how we're doing it. So, Paul, I want to touch on this Chromebox.
Okay.
Last week, I think Samsung is putting it out for $179 for this little.
But that's okay. So
that's a crap
That's
version.
not the Chromebox that is the point of the news announcement, right? In
No,
other words,
no.
Chromebox is not a new thing. When Google announced Chrome OS, whatever that was, a year and a half ago, whatever, Chromebox was one of the things. It's just that no one really made one, I guess. They were going to have Chromebooks and Chromeboxes. Like this is not like new to now. There's the Chromebox announcement that's occurring now is really about this package, right? This $1,000 thing that is a kind of a business focused, I don't know, Cisco replacement kind of thing, I guess. If that makes sense.
The telepresence, the teleconferencing software. It's $1,000, and the Cisco stuff, I mean, it goes up there in price. So pretty much all these guys are giving you is an i7 based computer running Chrome OS. Mm-hmm. I believe it has some sort of skin on it to make it more telepresency. I don't know if
telepresency.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I don't know exactly what they're doing because nobody really knows. But and they're giving you a Logitech C920 webcam for $1,000.
So it's hard for me to talk about this thing because I think it's pointless. But The problem is, I think a lot of people will have this kind of knee-jerk reaction. Oh, it's Chrome OS. Paul doesn't like it. Blah blah blah. It's not that. It's that there are. Well, it is that, but there are already solutions around that businesses can use that I think make a lot more sense for them, including Microsoft Link, by the way, which is yet another billion-dollar business for Microsoft. And I think the real reason that this Chromebox thing exists is Google just throws stuff out to screw with Microsoft. I would be leery as a business user of anything with the word Google attached to it, anything with the word Chrome attached to it, because I don't trust their intentions in this market. And there are amazing capabilities tied to Link that work on any PC, any mobile device. The software is everywhere. It's on the web. There's no special thing you have to. Most businesses just kind of have this. It's one of the most broadly deployed enterprise technologies in the world. So I don't know.
Have you seen the other HP units that they put out? So they had the big announcement about this $999 Chromebox that's doing telepresence, but the bigger story for me were those HP boxes, that HP line of i7s that they said it's not going to be as expensive as a $1,000 one, but it's not going to be as cheap as a $179 one. So really, it could be anywhere from $200 to $900.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
It's an i7. It's a beefy i7. It's a beautiful box.
Which I have to assume you need for the video, right? Why do you need an i7 for Chrome OS?
Oh, you need it for the video. But the other ones, the other HP boxes are not necessarily for video. They're just regular computers.
Yeah.
I'm really curious on what the pricing is going to be. They haven't announced the pricing yet. But if this thing is $699, right? Who's going to buy it? Really? Why would you buy it?
I don't know.
If it's $500.
I want something that's as expensive as any Windows computer. But, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
It also includes a 1-year support contract.
Yeah.
That's $250.
That's great.
But I don't... You know what? I would buy that i7, right? I would buy that i7, the box, yeah, the HP one. I would probably at most spend $300 for it, and that doesn't cover the cost of the hardware.
No.
So it's going to be far more.
Intel makes a little reference box like that, don't they? A little like NUI type computer or like a mini computer.
Yeah, but it's not running an i7. Is it?
No, but it's expensive. But that's my point. I mean, Intel's selling this thing for $600 or something, and it's not an i7. And I think that gives you an idea where this is going to fall. It's just not feasible.
I mean, people are really excited about this thing, and I'm curious. And I'm saying, yeah, it is exciting. If you want an i7 machine, you want something a little beefy. Google has been really pushing their gaming platform. That's one of their focuses. Right. Gaming on the Chrome.
You know what's going to happen though? Honestly, all this Chrome stuff, it's going to force Microsoft's hand, right? And ultimately, it will be interesting if this happens because Chrome OS will have had this very positive effect. And what I mean is, they're going to have to give away Windows RT, and they're going to have to make normal Windows available on some really cheap and liberal licensing policy like they do with Office 365 Home Premium. They're going to have to make this thing more affordable. At some point, all of this poking from below from Chrome, Microsoft's going to have to say enough. Enough. And and maybe that will be a positive outcome. I kind of think it was happening anyway, but I think Microsoft could make a lot of this stuff go away by giving away RT. And by making normal Windows, a lot less expensive, both to PC makers and to...
So I'm on HP's website right now, and the reason why I think this
you're obsessed by this.
I am, and you know why I'm obsessed by it? Because
and
the
by
box...
the way, the very phrase, like, I'm on HP's website, right?
Nobody ever says
you understand how terrible this website is.
It really is awful.
What are you trying to find on this website?
I don't even know what I'm looking at, but I could get 12 months to pay with no interest for my HP. So I'm on their website, just looking at the computers that they have, right? And the reason why desktop computers. Nobody has looked at a desktop computer on HP's website in about 5 years. But
no, in fact, the VM that hosts this is obviously spinning up right now because it's not loading. It's like no one has touched this page. And This is, I swear to God, this website is hilarious.
Am I the only one that thinks it's insane that they haven't released a Windows PC in this form factor? Like, they don't have that computer? Like, why doesn't that exist?
The mini form factor?
Yeah, the mini form factor, yeah.
By the way, companies do sell those, right? This isn't as mini as these things, but, you know,
but they're pretty,
Lenovo
these
sells
ones.
Think branded computers that are, you know, M series. They're very small.
Is that what they call the M series?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me go in desktop all-in-one M series tinies. So, here's one. Okay.
But by the way, they're not actually super inexpensive. Like
$700.
I think people look at this thing and they think, well, if a tower computer is $1,000, surely this little thing will be $300, and that's not actually how it works. So I think that's part of the problem.
So it's $700. It's an i5, not even an i7.
And this is Lenovo or
Lenovo. Let me see. They have another one here.
I mean, HP sells small form factor PCs, but they're
not like that.
No, not quite as small as that. They're actually, I mean, they're small.
I'm just curious why they haven't. I mean, you know, the Mac Mini is a pretty little box, and I would love that as a Skype machine, but I don't want to go and get a Mac for a Skype machine.
So the Mac Mini is not particularly inexpensive either, right? Which is part of the problem.
$1,000, yeah.
Yeah, it's realistically it's $1,000.
Yeah,
and it's $1,000 sans a monitor, but yeah.
I'm on
and
Apple's
it's total.
website.
You know, the Mac Mini is basically a laptop, right? With desktop.
Well, you know what? $600, Paul. Most people are going to get. You know, when they go in, they're going to see the $600 one. It's a i5, 4 gigs of RAM, 500 gig hard drive. $600, not that bad.
I love this kind of thing. You know, I really like the idea of it, I should say. I think the reality of this would bother me. And I have an old Mac Mini. I have a Core 2 Duo Mac Mini in my closet somewhere that no one ever uses. But you know, I like this idea. An i7 in one of these things. That's interesting.
I mean, but the person buying this, right, is going to the store. They're not buying it for the hardware. Like, you're not going and saying, like, well, I have to have an i7. You're going to buy it, $599. You're going to get a Mac. You're going to go buy some Samsung monitor connected to it, and you're fine. Why would I buy the Chromebox, that HP one that we don't know the price of yet, right? If it's $600, why would anybody pick that over this?
Honestly, HP is flailing. I don't think they understand what they're doing. I think they're just trying stuff. That Chromebox, obviously you look at that and you think Mac Mini first, right? Remember Dell made something like this, a colorful little box that was like a Mac Mini. I think theoretically, people think this would be neat with Windows. I think realistically, these things just don't really sell.
I don't know. That Chromebook is selling.
Well, but that's a mobile computer. I mean,
but they haven't. I mean, but they're not putting that. I mean, the people are buying it. I think most people are buying it, A, the price, obviously, but B, it's a pretty computer. It kind of has that Mac feel. Why isn't HP
until you run it, and then it has that Windows 7 feel?
Yeah,
Yeah. And then you realize, oh wait, it's just Windows 7 with a web browser.
But why not do that? Why not put Windows 8 on this thing and sell it, for $50 more, $100 more, whatever the price difference would be? It's the look of the device sells it.
By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, but HP does make something called the Elite Desk 800 Mini.
Okay, let's go find this. Elite, is it for business?
Elite Desk, one word. Just search Google, like Google.
But is it under the business category or?
I found it. I can't tell you how I found it. It's.
How did you find it, Paul? Elite
Desk, all one word, 800.
800. G1.
It's a tiny little thing.
Okay, it's a business.
HP's smallest business desktop.
You know what's awful? I cannot find a picture of this thing. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
It is. It's
okay.
Tiny.
Ultra slim, $1,000.
Is it $1,000?
$1,000.
And that's the tiny one. You sure that's a small one?
How many different? Oh, there's an ultra slim one. There's like 500 of them. Great job, HP.
Yeah, well, it's
HP. So we're talking $800 to $1,000 for this thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, the problem is for normal people, if you have that much money to spend on a computer, you're going to get a tower because you can put stuff in it. No one will ever really do that. But if people want that kind of opportunity. I think people look at this and they just say, there's no real advantage to this for them.
Paul, why can't we run this company? Why can't we run these companies?
HP?
Yeah, any
of them.
Know,
the way things are going at HP, I think everyone's going to get a chance. So,
what are you doing? I just want to shake the company. Just want to shake them. But
there's also a 600 mini.
But Paul, let's talk about the 179 box, right?
Yeah.
That's appealing.
Who makes that?
Asus.
Asus Chromebox.
Let's see, Chromebox. I think Asus.
Yeah. Another little
Samsung. Well, Samsung has one too. Wait, there's going to be a couple of them. Samsung has one for $329. It's that plasticky white box, right?
Okay.
And I believe
the one that looks like a router.
Yeah. And then you have.
Seriously, it's like I will say that. No, I won't say that. Never mind. I was going to be polite about this thing. I think this is ridiculous. As dumb as I think Chromebook is, I kind of get it. This one tethered to a monitor and on a desk somewhere, this flies in the very face of the point.
But Walt, someone walks in a store, they see it $179. You got a computer.
Sure.
And then, they go to you and they say, you can't get a virus with this thing. That's perfect. True. It's simple. All you do is check your Gmail. All you do is go to the browser. You're done. You're finished. $179.
Yeah. Okay.
I can see people buying
so
it.
Wait, but which? All right. So hold on a second. So where is this $179 one? This doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't exist yet, but I can't find the link for it now. I had it in the notes and then I deleted it.
That must be the Chromebox one, I guess.
Let's see, Brian. No,
the Asus one. Yeah, Asus Chromebox starts at $179.
Okay, where
this looks like a Roku device.
It does look like a little Roku box. Yeah, $180 though, Paul. And the way that people are marketing this is that you connect it to your TV. Yeah,
to your TV.
It's a Haswell price. It's a 1.4 gigahertz Celeron Haswell.
I don't know. So why would I attach this to my TV? Right. Obviously, one of the reasons would be to access these kind of services.
Because you hate yourself. I mean, obvious.
Yeah. Thank you. You finally get me, Andrew. Obviously, a Roku device is better for those kind of entertainment services. I as much as I think it's semi-ridiculous, you could get a Chromecast for the Google stuff and YouTube. I use my Roku. My Roku can browse my Windows server-based file share and access every movie I've ever ripped from DVD. You can plug in a USB key or a USB hard drive and access content on that. I don't see a reason for this. I don't. I feel like I say that a lot about anything with the word Chrome in it. I just don't
think there's a reason for a lot of things, right? Like, I don't see the reason for the Chromecast, really. Now I do, because they're opening up to developers. But there's a lot of these devices that I don't see a reason for it. There's something that does it, but it really comes down to pricing. The same reason why the Chromecast sold so well is the same reason why something like this may sell. And I think that's kind of their angle at this point. They're just throwing out cheap, inexpensive devices to get you in their ecosystem.
This if you go to the Asus page for this Chromebox thing, every single photo they have that shows the screen, there's one where they're looking at a photo slideshow. There's one where they're looking at a PowerPoint type presentation. There's one where they're playing an HD movie. There's one where they're looking at the Netflix app. In every single one of the photos, you can see the taskbar with all the icons on it and the tray.
Funny.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Why. Hey, remember this thing? Look, you could press it and it's like Windows, but not.
Because that's what you want to do from your couch, is have access to these mouse-friendly icons.
Let me see if I can pull it up here. Is this it? Is that it?
Yeah, look at every photo on this page.
So here we go. So,
every single one.
No one messaged me with anything embarrassing. My screen is on. Let's see. So look, there it is. They're watching a movie here. Well, they're sharing photos. They're watching a movie. And then look at this. Netflix.
Well, it's almost like this isn't the best way to do this stuff.
It plays back up to 4K.
Yeah. Neat.
I don't hate it, Paul. There's
TV.
A place for it, though. I really think something like this, it's sitting in Best Buy, $179, you buy it.
Andrew, we're just going to have to agree that you're insane.
I honestly think these are the things. You know what? The Chromecast. You know why people bought it? Because that instant they're like, it's in the store. Go buy it now. $30. If you had a week to think about it, you would not have bought it.
Sure. This thing, Chromecast makes more sense than this.
Kinda, yeah. I don't know, Paul. You don't. I'm curious on why you think something like this doesn't make sense. Like,
because what is it better than?
Nothing.
Like, what's it better than?
Nothing. Not better than anything.
That's why. In other words, there are things that are better than it that cost less than half of this. It doesn't make any sense.
But as far as a computer goes, right? Like, you want to do your browsing, you want to do your emails, you want to type up a document, you want to listen to some music. You kind of want it to be your computer. Yeah. What's better than this as far as the price point?
Right. I mean, right. That's fair. Right. And I guess when you say there's a world of people out there, and some of them are older, old people, and I don't mean that in some kind of weird negative way, but
I think you do. I think you do.
Well, no, I don't. I do think there's a market there for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
They have simple needs. They want to write emails and browse, maybe even browse the web or whatever. Yeah, that's okay. I don't know how this thing performs. I wouldn't personally put this in my living room only because, like I said, I have some stuff in there. In the old days, I had a tower PC in my living room for a long time that had Windows Media Center on it.
Yeah.
The reasons that I had that thing there are all superseded by newer, smaller, quieter, simpler things. All of it. It's all gone. And this is a return. This is a simpler PC, but it doesn't obviate the fact that putting a PC in your living room doesn't make sense for most people. I know I'm going to hear from every single person who does do this, but for most people, it just doesn't make sense.
I love that they're pushing the 4K, and the reason why they're pushing 4K on this thing is because Netflix came out and said this year they're going to start putting stuff out in 4K on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
But my question is, who's going to be able to watch it? Because most people don't have a 4K television set.
Right. The one good thing I will say about this box is it does have some pretty good video out options. I mean, it's the ports on this are actually pretty good.
It has 2 video outs. It has a mini display and HDMI. It has 2.
Yeah.
No, it has 4 USB 3.0s.
Yeah.
And a headphone jack. Yeah, not bad. No, I mean, it's not awful. It's an interesting little idea, but
I'm just trying to maybe someone I don't know if someone in the chat room or someone's going to write me an email or something. I would love to hear. Well, I can think of a few, but I'd love to hear why this thing makes sense. I will say, my mother, who is practically blind and sits just a few feet away from some ginormous TV in her living room, could potentially use this to do what we just described, to write an email to someone emails her with pictures of some grandkids' babies or something, potentially, sure. And would that make more sense than having a more complex and more expensive Windows computer attached to that screen? Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
You know what, Paul? Though I'll tell you something. When we talk about the person that doesn't get computers, right? The grandma or like my father, for example. My father, he stopped using a computer in 1990, and all of a sudden he's like, I want to get back into this, and it's been a real difficult thing for him. That's why an iPad has been so perfect. He understands it. He understands that you push this and it works, and he understands that the keyboard pops up and then goes away. It's very simple and very easy to understand for him. The reason why he's not using Windows is because it gets a little complicated. I think the second that you put that little taskbar and it goes on the web and it becomes more of an open platform for people, it becomes a little bit more complicated. So that idea that overly simplified computers appeal to, grandma and grandpa, I don't think that's the case. A tablet appeals to them.
Well, it depends, again, on their needs. Like I said, with my mother, she doesn't like tablets. And actually, she would never use this box that we're looking at either. But I just know, given her vision problems, that this might be interesting for her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get it, just to play around with. But I've been saying that about the Chromebook, and I still haven't gotten a Chromebook. So who knows?
If you're going to get a Chromebook, I would get one of the Haswell-based ones. I kind of wish I had waited for that. But I have to say, this little HP device, which is beautiful, the Chromebook 11. It's a tiny thing. It's not the size computer I would ever use anyway. But I I still have the same reaction to every time I open this thing up that I did dating back to the first time I ever opened up the Google CR42 device, which is it's so limiting. It's just I know people use it and love it, I guess, and good for them, but I just have the same exact reaction every time.
Paul, what do you, before we end the show, there was a lot of reports coming out over the last couple of weeks that Verizon has been doing some weird stuff with they've been throttling the bandwidth for Netflix. And, we've been talking about net neutrality on the show and what a big deal it is for content providers like us even. We're tiny, but it still matters to us on how the ISPs handle the distribution of bandwidth. Verizon is claiming no, they do not do any kind of throttling or limiting of bandwidth. Every piece of packet is the same. They view it as the same. They're not doing anything. But I have to tell you, I can tell you firsthand that I have experienced some weird stuff that Verizon does with certain types of file transferring. They claim they don't block FTPs. They don't block any of it. We were getting full bandwidth back and forth for our FTP because we transfer the files to Suncast, which edits it and sends it back. At one point, we were getting 7 megabytes, not megabits, megabytes.
Yeah.
Back and forth. All of a sudden, it went down to like 200K. According to them, they don't do anything. They're not blocking anything. I finally spoke to a rep that said certain ports, and if it's an FTP, they are throttling it. And then as soon as they're throttling FTPs for consumer use. They also do some weird stuff with Hamachi. They don't like Hamachi on their network.
Interesting.
And this was told to me by a rep. Listen, maybe they know something, maybe they don't, maybe they're just telling me what I want to hear. But as soon as they brought this up, my problems went away. They are definitely doing some packet shaping. So now with Netflix, a lot of people are experiencing severe problems with Netflix. I'm not one of those people. I've never had a problem with Netflix on Verizon. I actually think it's astonishing how well it works. And how I'm doing 1080p on everything on Verizon. So I don't know if it's a case-by-case basis. Another thing people should look at is the hops. It may not be Verizon, but there may be some problems at like level 3 in between hops between you and the server. So there's a lot of things going on. But do you think Verizon is doing this? I mean, from the stuff that you've seen, do you think it's a possibility that they're throttling?
We have to kind of take at face value what they're saying. On the other hand, I think that these carriers are all evil incarnate, and we can't trust any of them. And so the whole issue I had with this net neutrality smackdown thing was that, yes, of course, Verizon is going to be seeking special deals with the Netflixes of the world and other content providers to provide these special tunnels for people who can pay more. And of course, the divide between the rich and the poor is going to grow greater and greater because that's how the world works. And whether this very specific instance is true or not, I can't say. But do I trust this company in the slightest? No, not at all. I'll just say the only thing I had experience with on Verizon was I did use Hamachi. And I often wondered about that because it seemed like if you did like a LogMeIn at the time, and probably still, LogMeIn Pro has like a kind of an FTP style experience. And so you can log into a remote server, in my case, a server was here at home over a Verizon connection, download files, and it was very fast. Or you could use Hamachi and then use the kind of built-in network browsing capabilities in Windows to browse to the same location and then drag and drop the files to your desktop. And that was always really slow. There are 1,000 reasons why that could be true that have nothing to do with Verizon. But I will say that I've noticed, and I've not used Hamachi since I've switched to Comcast. I haven't traveled yet, but I certainly noticed that. But I don't. It's funny, I never attributed that to Verizon, but when you said that, I thought that's interesting. Cause
we had a big problem where we were using Hamachi and everything was perfect, and then all of a sudden, just one day, the speeds dropped on Hamachi. Weird. Okay, we dealt with it, and all of a sudden, every time we would use Hamachi, and it would take like 20 minutes, our router was shut off, and then we couldn't reconnect, and they would disconnect my IP. They couldn't renew, so I would have to call them and tell them, "Hey, you guys need to renew my IP." It's weird. I mean, it's strange. What's fascinating is that when I called them one time, we were having a lot of issues with Verizon that summer. It was something weird going on, and it wasn't even them. It was outside of the Verizon network that we were having a problem with where most of our CDNs, where we send the stream out to, were connecting through to get to me, and that hop had a lot of issues. So I call them up and I explain to them what I do, and the guy goes, "Listen, this is really inappropriate for me to ask. It's none of our business what you do, but what the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Holy cow, you are uploading every second of the day."
Like, thank you for showing us this. We're going to start watching you now.
And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, I mean, I've seen some like really high, traffic services. Like there are a lot of people that do. He's like, I'm not accusing you of anything. Obviously, I'm not saying you're using torrents or you're pirating, but wow, if you are watching movies, you're watching a lot of movies.
I'm not saying that you're downloading malware all day long, but
so I explained to them. Yeah, I explained to them, like, actually, I have a television studio in my house, and we stream live. And they're like, wow, that's actually really, really cool. Like, I never expected that as the answer. I'm like, you go to my website, take a look, gfknetwork.com, and I told him, and I was talking, he's like, wow, this is, like, crazy high. And I did the math. I'm uploading 8 megabits a second every second of the day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 8 megabits a second, I'm uploading constantly. And that's not including, the Netflix and everything else that I do.
Right.
So it's a lot of bandwidth.
And whatnot.
All the torrenting, all the pornography, everything.
Yep.
But it is amazing that we can do it now. That, it's allowed to even extend, on a residential line.
Sure.
When the other side of the argument is the mobile space where they don't want you to do anything.
I always I'm so wrong about so much. I always thought that the way mobile would go, it would just be unlimited everything all the time. Like that would be the way it would go. Like we would just get rid of all these stupid fees. And God, as soon as I got on the iPhone, they started dropping, the unlimited plans. It's just not the way it works.
I think it was on this show, Paul. One of the first times you ever came out, and we were talking about how amazing 4G is going to be because we're going to be able to kind of drop our home use. The average person could get rid of their phone and get rid of their internet and just use their phone for everything. And those 5 and 10 megabit, 5 and 10 gig caps follow through.
Yep. Wrong
again. All right, Paul. Let's wrap it up. I know you got to go do stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to go take a nap.
What are you doing today? Anything? I know you were in Boston today.
I went into Boston, but yeah, I'm done. I'm exhausted.
I'm always exhausted. My wife is actually going to Ireland on Thursday.
Well, she thinks she's going on Thursday.
She thinks she's going because we have a huge storm hitting. They're anticipating about a foot of snow. 10 inches to a foot here in New York City. So I don't know if she's going or not. And you know what? I was kind of hoping she got insurance on the trip, and when she booked it, I didn't think about it, and then I realized, like, oh wow, she's gonna be in Europe when the Olympics are happening. Not the best time to be traveling.
Well, why is she going to Ireland?
For the hell of it, with her mom.
Nice.
It was her mom's Christmas. We got it for her mom.
You never know. It could work out,
or it may not. You never know. The problem.
And we're looking at like maybe 2 inches of snow here. So this whole thing. It's like the whole southern part of the country is getting destroyed, and then it kind of peters out as you head up toward us. Oh well, I shouldn't say that. Actually, there's a part of New England that's getting a foot of snow, but it just for whatever reason it's not happening where I live.
Yeah, you're lucky because we're gonna get hit, and it's just never ending. I mean, this is a crazy winter.
Yeah,
I don't mind because I don't travel. I don't go anywhere, so it doesn't matter to me. Perfectly fine with it. Oh, boy. All right. Let's wrap it up. Go to our website, gfknetwork.com, if you miss any portion of the show. Guys, subscribe to us. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on every podcasting application out there. iTunes. We're on Windows Phone. So subscribe wherever you can. It's a humongous help when you guys do. Updates the show, downloads the show, and that means better for us. We have a lot of new stuff coming up, so we're going to be letting you know. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. Of course, Paul is at The Rod on Twitter. He also does a phenomenal show every Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. East. with Mary Jo Foley and Leah Laporte on the Twit Network called Windows Weekly, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Hey, Paul, you did great last week, by the way, on Tom Merritt's show, Daily Tech News Show.
Yeah.
Tom is a great guy. We're supporting everything that he's doing. If Cord Killers with Brian Brushwood and Daily Tech News Show. I'm going to be on that show next week on the 19th. I'm going to be on with Tom. So I was really happy when you were on last week.
Tell him I said hi.
I will tell him. It's a very small bubble we're all in now. We're all so connected. We're like all intertwined now. Right. So a lot of his viewers actually come in our chat. A lot of our viewers go watch him. So it's great, actually, this little broadcasting bubble that we're in. And that's it, guys. We'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.